right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people. What in the world is going on in Miami, Donnie?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
I do a sliding DiVincenzo to the one. Obviously, Terrence Shannon Jr., that is actually dynamic offensively and defensively. So we'll see how it works. I think it's a little bit of a work in progress. Do both teams win? Yes. I don't think at the end of the day, Minnesota could have afforded to keep Cat, Rudy, and Ant for that amount of money.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I do think they come back, and I think they win this game, but they've got to do it decisively. I think they've got to get that confidence back because they went out there, and like I said earlier, Kentucky almost beat Georgia. Kentucky almost did beat Ole Miss, and I think what you're going to see in this conference, if you don't play well and you're a top 10 team in the SEC, you're going to get knocked out by one of those top 25 teams in the SEC if you're not ready to play.
Powered by SportsGrid.
Hello and welcome to a Thursday Live right here on the early line on SportsGrid and all across the SportsGrid network. That includes sportsgrid.com/watch, where you can find your favorite destination to consume everything all across the grid. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. We are here together for the next 3 hours up until 11 a.m. Eastern Time. A Thursday that begins Week 6 around the National Football League, a divisional duel tonight in the Pacific Northwest between a team above 500 and a Super Bowl contender in the NFC title favorites sub 500. It's the Niners visiting Seattle to take on the Seahawks. Everything you need to know all around the NFL as a new week begins on this Thursday. And now here we are, firmly in October playoff baseball. The first spot in the LCS clinched last night. Some celebrate, others mourn. We'll get Donnie's thoughts on the end of Red October for the Philadelphia Phillies. We had a quadruple header yesterday. Everything you need to know around MLB with some college football handicaps as well in these 3 hours.
Oh, it is a big show. Now, sometimes you have to look on the positive side of things because we're professional here, but you know I'm a Phillies fan. There's two sides to this thing. Would I've liked to see the Phillies continue? Yes. But now I can go back, Ben, to falling asleep at 8:30 at night for the rest of the month of October and be rested and ready for every single show that we have now. And by the way, the Phillies offense, they were already put to sleep a couple nights ago, Ben.
Listen, DRS, I'm happy for you that you can get a good night's rest. Everybody now on vacation in the city of brotherly love. Because of what happened in game number 4 last night up in Queens, the New York Mets and Francisco Lindor posting a playoff memory that will live in Mets lore for quite some time. The Mets down by 1. In the home half of the 6th inning, Francisco Lindor, with the bases chalked, goes yard. A grand salami that gives the Mets a victory in their first appearance in the National League Championship Series since 2015, nearly a decade ago. Lindor plays hero. A grand slam to send the Mets into the LCS, the first time, DRS, that Citi Field, which opened in March of 2009, has seen a playoff-clinching series win in that ballpark. A night to remember forever in Flushing.
They better remember for a couple weeks because it looks like the Padres or the Dodgers. I think the Padres will be that next team. And Mets fans out there, rejoice. Here's the best part about it. Once you lose to the Padres or the Dodgers, you can put those Yankee hats back on and get after it, man. There's still World Series future there in that market. And it's just going to come from a Yankee side of things. But the Mets with a better team, there's no question about it. Here's the thing that's upsetting about me from a Phillies perspective. The Mets don't have good pitching, and the Phillies couldn't hit that. So from my look, if let's just say the Phillies snuck out that game last night, which they weren't going to do because they can't hit the baseball, and Zach Wheeler went 9 innings and probably needed a no-hitter in game number 5 for the Phillies to score 1 run and win that game. Phillies weren't winning the next series. The Phillies weren't going to win the World Series at that point. Good for the Mets here, catching fire late in the season, having some fun, because it's fun to be a fan at this point. But again, it's even better when you can put those Yankee hats back on and put those Mets hats back in the closet.
Oh, again, the bitterness from Donnie right side, not something you would expect, or perhaps you would, in the divisional rivalry in the division series. The New York Mets on to the National League Championship Series. The first playoff series clinching victory at Citi Field ever in Queens since the year 2000. Plenty more from around MLB and that set in just a little bit. But let's spin around the quadruple header. The Dodgers survive. In fact, they dominate in San Diego to force a winner-take-all game number 5. Mookie Betts, the star once again, a first-inning home run for the second consecutive game. Shohei Ohtani registers an RBI as well. The Dodgers blast the Padres 8-zip to force a Game 5 back at Chavez Ravine tomorrow night.
All hands on deck, and it worked. I thought last night the San Diego Padres were going to move on to the LCS, and that didn't happen. They got hammered, as you said, Ben. 8-0 overall. Cease last an inning and 2/3, gives up 3 earned runs. He was pulled, but you're just looking for a lifeline at that point. Hey, can we hold the game down? But if you're not going to score any runs, you're not going to win any baseball game. I was very impressed for the Dodgers, and also just playoff baseball is such an oddity now where teams are just saying we might have one pitcher that we can trust as a starter, and every other game is going to be a bullpen effort. What is going on? But the Dodgers use that to their advantage. They go back home now and look like they have a chance to get to the LCS. What a 5-game series we are set up for there between the Dodgers and the Padres.
Ryan Brazier out-dueling Dylan Cease in game number 4. The richest team in baseball with a bullpen game with their season on the line. We laugh, but it worked, and it forces a Game 5. The New York Yankees win the opening game in Kansas City. Actually, I said the New York Yankees. Giancarlo Stanton wins the opening game in Kansas City against the Royals. The Pinstripes recorded 4 base knocks. Stanton had 3, including 2 RBIs in the game-winning home run, a solo shot in the top of the 8th to give the Yankees the win in KC 3-2.
Yeah, and I thought it would be a lower scoring game. Didn't think we would get the 9 runs. That total was going off around 8. That easily stays under, but a big win for the New York Yankees, and you got it perfect here. You're on the road again, but you got your ace on the mound tonight, which we'll handicap a little bit later in Garrett Cole. But this is big. Like, the Yankees have the lead in the series, and their MVP is hitting .091. So some might say there's no way you can make him MVP favorite next year based on his postseason run, and I would agree with that. But they're winning baseball games without their big bopper right now.
That was very good, DRS. Very, very well done. Subtle indeed. Aaron Judge's postseason woes continue, but the Yanks are a win away from an American League Championship Series berth, and Garrett Cole is on the bump tonight at Kauffman Stadium. Something about those Tigers in the first playoff game in the Motor City in a decade. Since October 5th of 2014, the Tigers blank the Guardians, and it wasn't Tarek Skubal on the bump. It was 6 pitchers for A.J. Hinch and Detroit, and the Tigers do enough at the offensive side of the dish as well to take a 2-1 series lead with a 3-0 victory. The first home playoff win in the Motor City for this Tigers franchise since October 10th of 2013, 11 years ago today.
Yeah, what a shame of it, too, because the Cleveland Guardians finally get there with a decent ball club, and their bats are absolutely falling silent. And again, take a look at 2 different ways. We don't expect the Dodgers, with all that big payroll, to not be able to come up with a starting pitcher. But the Tigers have figured out a formula that says we actually have only 1 starting pitcher, and then we're going to have 3 bullpen games before we get back to that starting pitcher. And it's working right now, which is absolutely incredible. 3-0 win yesterday with a bunch of guys that you're saying, I hope we can get through this. But look at their ERAs in the series. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And then finally Holton comes in to close it down. He's actually got a 15 ERA, but you can't hit the Detroit bullpen. It's incredible what's going on.
Brent Herter, Bo Brisky, they're dealing like Skubal in this series. Now to the National Football League, Aaron Rodgers on the Pat McAfee Show, formerly of the Sports Grid Network, saying, quote, he resents any indication that he played a part in the dismissal of Robert Saleh. We love lying on national television. It's what Aaron Rodgers did yesterday.
And I believe you also included, I'm only going to spend 1 minute on this, which means I only have 1 minute of lies I can spew. Don't keep asking me questions because sooner or later I'm going to break and admit I didn't like Robert Saleh and I finally wanted to change. And how about also the other one? I would love if we had a play calling change as well. If you wanted to get rid of my right-hand man as the offensive coordinator. Oh, why didn't that already happen? Interesting.
Some quarterback news, at least around the NFL, in terms of who is going to start. Derek Carr's oblique injury. He's on the sideline for a few weeks. Dennis Allen in New Orleans names the rookie 5th-round draft pick Spencer Rattler the starter for Sunday in the Big Easy against the Bucs.
Hey, quickly on this, I don't understand what NFL coaches or GMs look at. The kid came in the game previously, looked like he couldn't play at all. So why was he the number 2 quarterback and Rattler was the 3, and now Rattler's going to be the starting quarterback because the other kid had 5 minutes to play and he looked terrible? What is the deal here, man?
That other kid's name is what?
Hayner, maybe? What is it?
There it is, Jake Hayner.
Yeah.
You got it, DRS.
Terrible.
By the way,
where'd that guy play?
the Raiders tabbing Aiden O'Connell, the starter, for week number 6. Gardner Minshew now rides the pine. More around October next.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I do think they come back, and I think they win this game, but they've got to do it decisively. I think they've got to get that confidence back because they went out there, and like I said earlier, Kentucky almost beat Georgia. Kentucky almost did beat Ole Miss, and I think what you're going to see in this conference, if you don't play well and you're a top 10 team in the SEC, you're going to get knocked out by one of those top 25 teams in the SEC if you're not ready to play.
Powered by SportsGrid.
He already has more than 1,000 yards. The last 3 running backs to win the Heisman, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, Reggie Bush, did not have more than 650 in their opening 5 games of the year. Ashton Genty on pace to strike the pose in December.
Statistics matter. Blow every record out of the water, and he will be a Heisman. Disgraceful performance by the head coach, not Gene.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Yesterday was the final day of this Major League Baseball season, regular season or postseason, that we will have more than 2 games on any single day. A quadruple header of playoff baseball with spots in a league championship series at stake. This is why we love the postseason. This is why we love October. Does Donnie Rightside say the same? A proud Philadelphia Phillies fan after what happened last night in Queens. The New York Mets with Jose Quintana on the bump against a playoff stud, by the way, in Ranger Suarez, who was really good for the Phils yesterday, had a chance, booked as a home favorite New York, to earn a spot in the NLCS for the first time in nearly a decade. They were down 1-0 into the home half of the 6th. The bases were loaded for the guy that if Shohei Ohtani did not exist would win National League MVP. That's Francisco Lindor, the star of this Mets organization, the player they look to in those significant stages with the bases juice, delivers a grand slam in the home half of the sixth to put the Mets in front 4-1 and to send the Amazons into the National League Championship Series for the first time since 2015. A memory, DRS, for this Mets franchise that will live on forever.
Yeah, it was a big moment there. You know, you ask your superstars to perform in the biggest moments, and you got that from Francisco Lindor. Wasn't having a great series, ended up hitting .259, which is okay, but the impact of that one swing where they did not have a single run and turned it into 4 runs, you knew the game was over that point in the bottom of the 6th inning. And also, the New York Mets could have many more runs than that 4 spot in the 6th inning. But Ranger Suarez was absolutely gutty in that performance with a lot of key strikeouts. Same thing with the Philadelphia Phillies. They got that 1-run lead. You knew you needed more out of that. There was still first and third with 1 out with a runner on third base after that error by Mark Vientos. And then you say to yourself, hey, oh, well, a pop fly to right field and a strikeout, and you only got 1 run when you could have increased it and certainly turned it up. You saw that crowd, which was so electric to start the game at Citi Field, was absolutely dead silent by the 5th inning because nothing was going their way, and you left the door open. You bring in relievers that walk guys. You bring in relievers that throw wild pitches. You put all the leverage on closers coming into the game that aren't used to coming in a bases-loaded situation, and you wind up with a grand slam victory there. So I want to give credit to the New York Mets superstars, which stepped up in the biggest moments when the Phillies players, look, shout out Bryce Harper, hit .333 in that series. He was okay. Nick Castellanos hit .412 in that series. Everybody else, Schwarber, 125, Turner, 200, Bohm, 077. Real didn't even get a base hit 0. Stott, 182. I mean, you got to be kidding. Marsh, 077. You're not going to win baseball games when 2 players out of 9 show up for you. That's what happens.
Yeah, DRS, it is the case, right? A Schwarbomb to start the series on Saturday from Kyle Schwarber. From then, he was pretty lackluster at the dish. Bryce Harper was the reason they had scored a run in the game. Infield was in, runners on the corners. Mark Vientos tried to go home, lost the baseball on a potential throw. But Jose Quintana has been incredible in this postseason. 5 innings of work, 2 hits, 1 run scored against him, but on what was deemed the error on Mark Vientos. In DRS, that is where we gave Philadelphia the edge, perhaps in this series or against any of the teams still standing in the National League. On the bump, Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, as good as you will find, did not amount into a series win, of course, for the Phils. We'll talk about the end of Red October and this season for Philadelphia in the age-old debate of rest versus rust in the expanded MLB postseason. But let's highlight what the Mets have done. And, Donnie, there is going to be a conversation that New York was playing playoff baseball in the final month and a half. So they were already groomed for these games where their season could be on the line or an advancement into the next round of a postseason. That is true, but the Mets have been the best team in baseball since the beginning of June, 24-33 at the end of May. 9 games below 500. In fact, they dropped their first 2 games in June, 11 games sub 500. From that point, the best record in all of the bigs. And for a team that has been on an incredible run the last 2 weeks in the doubleheader in Atlanta, in the winner-take-all Game 3 wild card round in Milwaukee, where Pete Alonso in the 9th inning delivered a 3-run bomb for the go-ahead in game-winning runs. And then everything that we have seen in this series against Philadelphia with late-inning magic to be down by a run in the bottom of the 6th and have Francisco Lindor deliver. It has been a Mets postseason run that is indeed magical.
Yeah, it is. And also the playoff blueprint seems to be now. It used to be in the past, Ben, right? Give me a couple good starters here, and we're going to certainly knock out the other team. Now it's just make sure you get your clutch hitting there, and it continues because those high leverage situations now are completely going to the bullpen. And if you have a bullpen that outplays the other bullpen, you probably have the advantage much more than even a great starting pitcher, which is wild. It's almost like baseball in reverse over the past couple of years of what we saw for the previous 100 years in Major League Baseball. So the Mets were the better team in the book. Coming into the series, the Phillies had the better 1 through 9. The Phillies had better starting pitching. Phillies had the better bullpen, and they lost the series. And also reminds us that baseball is unlike any other sport and almost similar to hockey in a sense where you just got to get hot once you get to the playoffs.
Right.
Because these teams are so close and impactful. It's not like the NBA where you have LeBron James playing every minute of every game in a 7-game series. Your best player is Zach Wheeler. He pitched one game out of this, set that they had in 4 games. He doesn't pitch every game. So the chance for your team to pull upsets in baseball, much easier than a lot of sports.
DRS, Craig Mish has made this point. He's our MLB insider. I think it's rather sound. With the expanded postseason, it's more so a tournament than a representation of the very long 162-game MLB regular season. Pete Alonso, 2 home runs in 4 games in this set. Mark Vientos, the error that allowed Philadelphia to score its lone run of the game, but 12 of 28 in the postseason, batting .429. He has been sensational for the Mets. And again, yesterday was the first playoff series clinching win at Citi Field ever. The stadium opened back in 2009. The first playoff series clinching win in Queens since October of 2000, nearly 2.5 decades ago. DRS, we'll get your thoughts on the Phillies on the other side. But for a team that was the best in baseball for most of this year, certainly at the All-Star break, 28 games above 500, 62 and 34. We'll get your thoughts on how the season will be remembered for Philadelphia. We'll get to the other NLDS set as well as the Dodgers force a winner take-all.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you...
There, and like I said earlier, Kentucky almost beat Georgia. Kentucky almost did beat Ole Miss. And I think what you're going to see in this conference, if you don't play well and you're a top 10 team in the SEC, you're going to get knocked out by one of those top 25 teams in the SEC if you're not ready to play.
Powered by SportsGrid.
He already has more than 1,000 yards. The last 3 running backs to win the Heisman, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, Reggie Bush, did not have more than 650 in their opening 5 games of the year. Ashton Genty on pace to strike the pose in December.
Statistics matter. Blow every record out of the water, and he will be a Heisman. Disgraceful performance by the head coach, not Gene.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
At the All-Star break back in the middle of July, there was no better team in the bigs than the Philadelphia Phillies. 62 and 34 in the final week before the break in Arlington. They had just hammered the Dodgers in an intriguing set for who had pole position in the National League. But Donnie, after the All-Star break, the Phillies started to struggle. They lost 16 of their next 23 games, then figured it out down the stretch to hold on to a National League East divisional lead and earn a divisional crown. But ultimately, when all is said and done, in 4 games in the NLDS, the Phil season is over. How will you remember the 2024 MLB campaign for your Fightins?
As a lost chance, because coming into the playoffs, I truly believed roster-wise they were the best team in Major League Baseball. Not playing great baseball, but you thought like maybe a couple days off, they'd get the bats together. You saw them finally break out in game number 2, and on your way you go. That wasn't the case here. And sometimes it is about getting hot at the end of the season, but also keep in mind, we don't have that great baseball team that's coming from the American League. I like the Yankees, and I think they're going to get to the World Series because the competition level is quite low. It's not as if you're like, okay, we got to grind all the way through, Ben, and then you meet the Astros as hot as all get out in the World Series and try to take them down. Or if I just look at my Philadelphia Eagles, you got to work your way all the way through, and then you get the Patriots in the Super Bowl, which they finally won in 2017. I thought this year was set up for them perfectly because I honestly didn't think the Mets, even though we're hot, were all that good. You see the pitchers that they run out their starting lineup. lineup, you should be able to feast on that. When I mean feast, 3, 4, 5 runs in a game should not be that hard for the Phillies lineup. But they just drew dead at the plate, and that happens. We've seen it time and time again, and credit the Mets for being able to say, you know what, we have the perfect pitching to go up against the Phillies. Let's throw left-handed junk sidewinders that the Phillies just can't say, hey, it's not a strikeout swing. They've swung at everything. Next year, they do have to make changes, and the Phillies will. But keep in mind this. If the Phillies didn't make a single change, you know what, Ben? They'd be in the running for the best record in baseball next year in the regular season because that works. That analytical approach, swing from the heels. Not every night we're going to get a good pitching performance. Not every night we're going to get a best bullpen performance from the other team, and they probably would win again, mid-90s next year. But that doesn't work in the playoffs. You need guys that have the ability to go station to station. And I don't even mean small ball, Ben, where it's like, hey, well, I'm going to bunt every single time we get a guy on first base with no outs to move him to second. I'm just saying if there's a runner on base, a productive out means just as much as a hit in some scenarios here. And the Phillies couldn't do that. And you saw that in spades in the series. The big hit, move the runner over, lead off. It's almost like, Ben, when you get a leadoff double in the playoffs, it's like in the regular season, all right, good. We got to run. Let's see if we can get 2. In the playoffs for the Phillies, like, man, I wish there was a home run because I don't even know if this guy's going to get to third base at this point right now. That's the struggle you have. The Phillies need changes. Who knows if they can make them? They have an owner that will spend money. But what are you spending it on again? Another guy to come in and hit 35 home runs in the regular season and strike out in the postseason? What gives?
Better bullpen? I don't know, DRS. You do bring up a good point, though. It's not a surprise that when you lose a game in whatever sport, your offensive or scoring production is not nearly as high as in a win. But only 5 runs scored by the Phils in the 3 losses combined in the NLDS. Now let's get to the other division set around the National League. A heated rivalry in Southern California where the Padres hammered the Dodgers really early on in game number 3 and in game 2 all day long. The Dodgers returned the favor in game number 4. Dylan Cease, oh boy, what a bad division set against this Dodgers team. 5 innings of work. He started game 1. He started last night. 8 earned runs allowed in total. 3 given up last night. The Dodgers got on top early. Mookie Betts, a homer in the first. Shohei Ohtani, an early RBI. Another ribby out of Betts as well. And then Will Smith and Gavin Lux add on with a couple of 2-run shots. The Dodgers dominate to force a winner-take-all Game 5 back in L.A. tomorrow. 8-0 the victory in Game 4.
Yeah, it should be a good one. And by the way, 8 runners left on base for the Dodgers. You might say, oh, that seems like a lot. But they went 5 of 9 with runners in scoring position. That is phenomenal. You take a look at the Padres who didn't score. No surprise. Left 9 on base, went 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position. But this was a runaway right away. And if I would have known, and I bet a parlay yesterday on the San Diego Padres, a couple guys to get a base knock or 2, and also for the Padres to score 3 runs. And this is why it's tough where I say I lose my edge in the playoffs. The listed starter yesterday, all the way up to, noon or afternoon, was Knack. He ends up pitching the 9th inning in a blowout because apparently they didn't want to use him, and my handicap was based on him being a bad pitcher. So good luck sometimes in the playoffs trying to figure things out, but I know one thing that worked. The Dodgers figured out a bullpen plan that shut out the red-hot Padres at the plate. That was pretty impressive. Dave Roberts lives to fight another day.
Yeah, he does. San Diego blanked where they had scored at least 5 runs in the opening 3 games of this series. Ryan Brazier gets the start for L.A. We'll show you the odds for Game 5 tomorrow night at the Ravine, and then go to the AL next.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I do think they come back, and I think they win this game, but they've got to do it decisively. I think they've got to get that confidence back because they went out there, and like I said earlier, Kentucky almost beat Georgia. Kentucky almost did beat Ole Miss, and I think what you're going to see in this conference, if you don't play well and you're a top 10 team in the SEC, you're going to get knocked out by one of those top 25 teams in the SEC if you're not ready to play.
Powered by SportsGrid.
He already has more than 1,000 yards. The last three running backs to win the Heisman, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, Reggie Bush, did not have more than 650 in their opening 5 games of the year. Ashton Genty on pace to strike the pose in December.
Statistics matter. Blow every record out of the water, and he will be a Heisman. Disgraceful performance by the head coach, not Gene.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
The Dodgers force a winner-take-all game number 5 tomorrow back in downtown Los Angeles against the San Diego Padres. 8 guys, DRS, for the richest team in baseball, although Shohei Ohtani's contract not exactly hammering the books of this current point for MLB. But they go with a bullpen game, and 8 guys get it done. Ryan Brazier gets the start, or at least the opener. Landon Knack closed it out for LA. 8-zip the victory. Mookie Betts has been sensational. Dylan Cease has not been great. Fernando Tatis Jr., who has been electric, 1 for 4 yesterday at the dish. So here we are. Winner take all game 5 tomorrow. Here's the early look at the line. Of course, we will preview this game the entirety of our Friday show on TEL. The Dodgers open as a minus 144 favorite. It's now minus 142 on that money line. Yu Darvish has been tabbed the starter for San Diego, DRS. TBD as of right now for the Dodgers. Might it be 8 more guys on the bump for the Dodgers at the Ravine tomorrow night?
Hey, it looks like it because, it's kind of, you can't do this in the regular season with bullpen because you just blow your bullpen out by the end of April. So you sort of stretch it out, and hopefully in the playoffs you have some good bullpen arms. Because you take a look at the Dodgers, Brazier comes in yesterday. He's got a 4.91 ERA in the playoffs, which is quite high. The rest of the, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players that came in, Ben, they haven't given up an earned run in this playoff series, which is absolutely incredible. It's like all hands on deck, pitching all the way through. Now, if you are going to look once again at game number 5, the Dodgers will be a favorite, as we stated, just because they're home. But also at the right time is you're looking at Yu Darvish on the mound. Can he give you 5 to 6 innings of quality baseball like he gave you already in the series? That's going to be key because I don't know how long you can just rely against a good baseball team like the Padres and say, we could just throw bullpen arms and hopefully we get away with it. Sooner or later, that's really going to catch up to you.
You would think that the Dodgers are going to turn to Yoshi Yamamoto, who started game number 1 but got roughed up, allowed 5 earned in only 3 innings. We shall see by the time we reach tomorrow night back in downtown L.A. Now we go to Kansas City. First playoff game at Kauffman Stadium since a World Series run way back in 2015. And it was a good game between the Yankees and the Royals, despite the lack of excitement from the broadcast booth, but that's a different story for a different day. The Pinstripes were a road favorite in Kansas City, and I guess you could say the Yankees won. More so, Giancarlo Stanton gives the Yankees a 2-1 series advantage in the American League division set. The Pinstripes, DRS, recorded 4 base knocks as a team. Stanton had 3, including the decisive and game-winning solo home run in the top of the 8th. The Yankees take that 2-1 series advantage with a 3-2 win in Kansas City.
They're supposed to be Kansas City. This is supposed to be a walk in the park for the Yankees. Like, you know me being an Eagles fan a couple years back, making that Super Bowl run. You have the bye week, then you come and play a bad Giants football team and erase them, and then you play in the NFC Championship game, and Brock Purdy gets injured in the first half of that game, and you cruise to a Super Bowl, which you end up losing here. That's what I feel like the Yankees are. You couldn't have asked them for a better scenario to play the Kansas City Royals and then possibly the Guardians and or the Detroit Tigers. This should be easy, and it hasn't been for them. Yeah. And this is what playoff baseball is all about. You need guys to step up in the biggest spots. You would figure, like, okay, the Yankees aren't going to win this series if Judge has been terrible. Judge has been absolutely flat out terrible, and here they are with a chance to close out the series with their ace on the mound tonight. Sooner than later, you hope Judge wakes up, and when he does, you're still hoping that you're getting good performances out of Juan Soto in that lineup and Giancarlo Stanton that can sort of buoy you and say, all right, until we get everybody in line, we can beat these teams that are clearly just not as talented. That's a good win for the Yankees and good for Giancarlo Stanton, because one of those guys that's usually much maligned, like, well, what did you expect out of Stanton in a big spot? Of course he's going to strike out. Of course he's going to hit into a double play. He came through big time yesterday because Aaron Judge couldn't come through big time.
Big time. 3 for 5, 2 RBIs. The only other run recorded for New York was on the only other base knock they got in the top of the fifth. Anthony Volpe had a single later in the inning on a Juan Soto RBI sac fly. Volpe did score. And now we're going to start to have the conversation around Aaron Judge. He can do whatever you would like in regular seasons, but when it comes to October as of late, oh boy, 1 for 11 in the 3 games so far here in the American League division set. Of course, way back in 2022, after the historic production in 62 long balls, the most we've ever seen in the history of the American League, he was 5 of 36. You tally that up, he is 6 for 47 in the last 2 playoff runs for the Yankees. Might he deliver tonight? That remains to be seen. But the Yanks DRS, as we looked at the series odds, and of course, with an eye on Game 4, it's going to be very difficult for the Royals to get out of this 2-1 hole. They face Garrett Cole. Tonight, they send out Michael Wacha. The Pinstripes greater than $1.50 favorite on the road in KC. If somehow they pull the upset, of course, they would have to travel back to the Bronx this weekend to try to win a winner-take-all Game 5. It's why the Yankees are greater than a $5 favorite to advance to the ALCS.
Yeah, and they should close them out tonight. And it's no shame on the Kansas City Royals. This was an unbelievable season with not a lot of high expectations to start. You found some players that you figure can be those cornerstones for the next couple years, and also playoff experience never hurts a team heading into the next season. But the Yankees were the better team coming into the series. The Yankees should be able to close it out, and it's their perfect scenario. On the road, who would you want to close it out? Garrett Cole. He should be phenomenal, I expect, tonight, and I expect the Yankees to move on.
The Yankees now a minus 160 favorite to win the American League pennant. With an easy path comes great pressure as well, because who will the Yankees see in the American League Championship Series if they reach that stage? More than likely, it's the Detroit Tigers. These gritty Tides, man, they do not quit. In the first playoff game in the Motor City in a decade, the first playoff win at Comerica Park in 11 years. The Tigers and the 6 guys that threw on the bump yesterday post a 3-0 win against a Guardians offense that has stalled out in a big way. The runs produced yesterday by Riley Green, Matt Vierling, Spencer Torkelson finally getting on the stat sheet in the postseason, all recording an RBI. Detroit wins in front of the home crowd, 3-0 over Cleveland.
I tell you, like, similar to the Philadelphia Phillies, you look at some of these lineups and say, this really can't be happening, because you look at Kwan, who's actually hitting .455, Ben, for the Guardians in this series. After that, Manzardo, 0. Fry, 200. Ramirez, 111. You have Josh Naylor, actually with a decent average of 273. Then Thomas, 182. Jimenez, 100. Brennan, 0. Jankowski Noel, 0. Bo Naylor, 0. Martinez, 0. Hedges, 0. I mean, what is this? Like, somebody step up. Like, just get. We're not even asking you, Ben, to like, hey, you got to get 4 base hits out of 10 at bats. How about 2? That'll actually work in the playoffs here, and they can't seem to get out of their own way. But shout out to the Detroit Tigers, who are doing with basically a full bullpen effort. But I got to tell you this. Let's just say the Kansas City Royals can come back and knock out the Yankees. Then it would be, let's just say, the Tigers going up against the Royals. That is Major League Baseball is actually running and hiding right now. I mean, send out the umpires that can rig this thing to make sure we get a good World Series, people. We need this. Come on.
The Guardians, DRS, scored 5 runs in the first inning of Game 1 in the land before an out was even recorded. They scored 2 more runs in the 6th. From then, they have not scored a run. Okay, against Tarek Skubal, we would understand. Against the 6 guys yesterday that Detroit throwed out, they call it pitching chaos in the Motor City, and it's been working. Brant Herter, the 26-year-old rookie from Canton, Georgia, records the win 3 1/3 yesterday. Made 10 appearances in the regular season. It is just insane what A.J. Hinch has this Tigers team doing with the momentum right now in the Motor City. So Detroit will have an opportunity at home today to clinch a berth in the American League Championship Series, to be the first team to do so. Tanner Bybee gets the start for the Guardians. -118. Cleveland is the road money line favorite against a Tigers pitcher yet to be named. But hey, we know it's going to be Tarek Skubal if a Game 5 is even necessary. Around the NFL up next.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I do think they come back, and I think they win this game, but they've got to do it decisively. I think they've got to get that confidence back because they went out there, and like I said earlier, Kentucky almost beat Georgia. Kentucky almost did beat Ole Miss, and I think what you're going to see in this conference, if you don't play well and you're a top 10 team in the SEC, you're going to get knocked out by one of those top 25 teams in the SEC if you're not ready to play.
Powered by SportsGrid.
He already has more than 1,000 yards. The last 3 running backs to win the Heisman, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, Reggie Bush, did not have more than 650 in their opening 5 games of the year. Ashton Genty on pace to strike the pose in December.
Statistics matter. Blow every record out of the water, and he will be a Heisman. Disgraceful performance by the head coach, Gene.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
The record has been set straight, at least in the mind and out of the mouth of Aaron Rodgers. In appearance on the Pat McAfee Show, formerly of the SportsGrid Network, Aaron Rodgers was able to sound off. One we greatly awaited, DRS, from when this news hit all of us around 10 a.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday morning that Robert Saleh had been fired as the head coach of the New York Jets. It was clear there was a little bit of friction in the relationship between 40-year-old quarterback and head coach Saleh. Yesterday on that Pat McAfee Show, here's what Aaron Rodgers had to say. Quote, "I love Coach Saleh. We have a very solid relationship. He was a big reason why I came." I didn't even read this in full. He was a big reason why I came to the Jets, end quote. And shout out Ari Meirov, who has also appeared on the SportsGrid Network, for using this picture of the hug that wasn't a hug, that wasn't apparently a big deal way back in week number one. Aaron Rodgers would further go on to say, DRS, that he, quote, resents any of those accusations because they're patently false, into the idea, at least, what Aaron Rodgers is alluding to, that he played a role or was the puppet master behind the dismissal of Robert Saleh after a 2-3 start. So now we know what the truth is. That makes a lot of sense. All sounds good.
Yeah, if I was litigating this, right, Ben, and I was talking to the jury, I'd say, you know, I got a case closed. I got a closed case right now because why? How about this? He says he didn't fire his head coach. Let's go over his personal life. Fired his mom, fired his dad, fired his brother, fired every girlfriend, and fired every fiance that he ever had, and fired the Green Bay Packers. So there you go. I just litigated it for you. He's fired everybody in his life, including Robert Saleh. There, case closed. We won. Hit the gavel. Let's move on.
He leads off with the mom. That's dirty business, but you are not incorrect. Aaron Rodgers has often been in his career or perhaps personal life a little bit adversarial, right? That's just kind of where he is. As we focus on the football nature of his background, he used to butt heads in a very public way with Mike McCarthy, despite winning a Super Bowl together. There was a thought that maybe the Packers moved on from McCarthy because of Aaron's wishes. They bring in Matt LaFleur. Oh boy, they didn't like each other. Aaron would change plays at the line of scrimmage. LaFleur's like, stop, I'm pretty good at this. Please focus on what I tell you. That, of course, did not work out. He emerges out of the darkness. He decides that he wants to play in New York. That line really got me. Robert Saleh is one of the reasons I wanted to come to the Jets, is really, really good. Because, Donnie, we have often shared, whether it has been in the offseason, throughout regular seasons, when it came even as recently as the Devontae Adams trade speculation, who calls the shots for Gang Green? Is it owner Woody Johnson? Is it GM Joe Douglas? Is it head coach Robert Saleh? Certainly not anymore. It is Aaron Rodgers. And he can tell you whatever he wants to tell you. And he wants to save space, right? He wants to save the public's face that he is this guy and all this happens to him. And when everybody else talks outside of the building, it's not his fault, despite being the main reason there is any drama in New York at any time during his 18-plus months with this Jets organization. Regardless of what Aaron wants to say, here is the reality, that from what happens now, from what happens moving forward for the Jets, it is squarely on one man. It's not interim head coach Jeff Ulbrich. It's not offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett. It's not GM Joe Douglas. It's not owner Woody Johnson. It's Aaron Rodgers. If they struggle, if they do not post a winning record, if they do not make the postseason, it is solely on the 40-year-old quarterback that looks a little bit washed up at this moment.
No, you're right about that. And that's the exact scenario I think we all want, and maybe even the owner of the New York Jets, Woody Johnson, wants. Let's get everything, let's air it out. The coach is no longer the problem. You got every player you want, and you are in control of this organization, it feels like, for Aaron Rodgers. It's put up or shut up time. Because if you watch the way the season has played out, and we're never going to know, but if I tell you right now, Ben, Tyrod Taylor starts against the Denver Broncos and the Minnesota Vikings, the Jets are no worse than 1-1 at that point. Like, Aaron Rodgers legitimately was that bad in both of those games where he lost it. The defense played extremely well. Aaron Rodgers throwing interceptions that are getting returned for touchdowns in games, which are counting against the defense. If you just had a competent game plan that didn't turn the football over, no less than 1-1 in those two football games, maybe even 2-0. But I like this because now you know Aaron Rodgers is going to have the spotlight on Monday Night Football to prove everybody wrong, because the narrative can shift on a dime. They go out and beat the Buffalo Bills, and also the Buffalo Bills, 3-0, now lost 2 straight games. Not as if they're coming in as world beaters. But if you handle them Monday Night Football, we will start to say, like, maybe it was the head coach, even though technically I don't think it was the head coach. But you tell me this, they go on Monday Night Football and get beat by the Buffalo Bills? Oh, yeah, the party is on in New York.
Listen, Tuesday morning, I will eat crow. Yeah. I will do whatever is necessary for slandering Aaron Rodgers' slightly good name. The Jets are still a 2.5-point home underdog, for a monumental Monday night matchup in MetLife. DRS, we were not together on Tuesday when this news broke, but Joe Ranieri and I probably called this the biggest Monday night football game in week 6 of an NFL season in the history of the league. Here is why. The Jets' win total is now 8.5. The under has the juice. They were expected to be a double-digit win team to start the year. They were the favorites to win the AFC East. They were heavily favored at minus 172 to make the postseason and snap a 13-year playoff drought. So I ask you, Donnie, with all of these changes, with Robert Saleh now on the outside looking in, and all of the onus on Aaron Rodgers, ultimately, will it be enough? Will the Jets be a playoff team at the end of this season?
From right now, what we see, no. But I actually had higher expectations on the Jets coming into the season than a lot of people, which meant I thought they could win the division and get double digits and make it into the playoffs. But as it seems now, what is actually going to get better? Aaron Rodgers even got beat up, bruised, and battered in that last game, where now he has a bum ankle coming off the injuries last year from the Achilles. So I can only vote on what I see, and I don't think this is a playoff team, coaching change or not, Ben.
Listen, DRS, if you can't tell in my tone, I might not be the biggest fan of Aaron Rodgers or who exactly he stands to be as a person, but I still thought the Jets would be a playoff team this year.
Yeah,
not anymore.
no bias.
More around New York
bias.
and the NFL now.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I do think they come back, and I think they win this game, but they've got to do it decisively. I think they've got to get that confidence back because they went out there, and like I said earlier, Kentucky almost beat Georgia. Kentucky almost did beat Ole Miss, and I think what you're going to see in this conference, if you don't play well and you're a top 10 team in the SEC, you're going to get knocked out by one of those top 25 teams in the SEC if you're not ready to play.
Powered by SportsGrid.
He already has more than 1,000 yards. The last 3 running backs to win the Heisman, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, Reggie Bush, did not have more than 650 in their opening 5 games of the year. Ashton Genty on pace to strike the pose in December.
Statistics matter. Blow every record out of the water, and he will be a Heisman. Disgraceful performance by the head coach, not Gene.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on the Early Line on SportsGrid and all across the SportsGrid network. DRS, as we continue our examination into the New York Jets and what lays ahead after Aaron Rodgers was able to speak yesterday on the Pat McAfee show. Do you think, and I'll just finish with this, that any of the changes in the head coaching management of the Jets makes it a more desirable landing spot for Devontae Adams to end up?
I think Devontae just wants to play with Aaron Rodgers, so I don't even care what the head coach was or not. Like, could it be like in the room, like Sal was like, no, I'm not going to give you the Devontae Adams. I don't think we need him. Well, we got to move on from here. And also, do we get a referendum Monday Night Football as well? Like, if the Jets drop that game and go to 2-4, does Woody Johnson go, well, I absolutely have to get Devontae Adams, or does he go, I'm not giving up like a first-round draft pick and paying this guy extreme amounts of money so we cannot make the playoffs and then head into next year with an older team? Or is it we win Monday Night Football to even up our record and then say, hey, look, get me this guy. We can now make that playoff surge. There's a lot on the line, Ben, on Monday Night Football, whether or not this team is going to survive the season and make a playoff run.
Again, as big as you will find on a Monday night in Week 6 to close out the first third of an NFL season. With a victory, the Jets a 2.5-point home underdog. New York becomes the top team in the AFC East. Despite everything that has happened in the first 6 weeks, they would have the best record based on tiebreaker and be in that top spot in the AFC East divisional standings. We did get word from the Las Vegas Raiders that Devontae Adams not expected to play this week, a hamstring injury that's just been a little bit tricky to shake. Who will be throwing the football to the rest of the Raiders wide receivers? That's going to be Aiden O'Connell, the starter for the Raiders at home against the Steelers in week number 6. Listen, Antonio Pierce, the permanent head coach, if he can hold on at the end of 2024, they're going to have a new quarterback in place. Probably more intriguing, DRS, in New Orleans, the Saints naming 5th-round pick, the rookie Spencer Rattler, out of South Carolina by way of Oklahoma, the starting quarterback for week number 6 in a huge home game in the Big Easy against divisional opponent, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Of course, the Saints started off 2-0. They have lost 3 straight. Spencer Rattler, who was okay in the preseason, has been the inactive emergency quarterback for the first 5 games for New Orleans. We have seen Jake Haener, the youngster out of Fresno State, play 3 times in both of the opening 2 blowout wins when New Orleans was so far in front that Derek Carr took a seat. And even on Monday, after Carr was injured late in the fourth quarter against Kansas City. So it's slightly peculiar, DRS, not to give the nod to Spencer Rattler, who looked promising at times in the preseason, but the fact that Rattler has been the emergency backup third-string quarterback when Haener's already played in 3 games so far this year.
Yeah, nothing makes sense sometimes from these organizations. They're supposed to be the smartest men in the room. They see these guys practice every single day. And some of us on the outside, when we just watch games and say, I don't know how this guy is the backup quarterback and not the third-string quarterback or even in the NFL. And then they prove you right by watching that game in primetime versus Kansas City. Like, I don't know if this guy's been practicing or if he ever expected to get into an NFL game or Derek Carr is just supposed to play the entire season all the way through, but he looks like he can't play. And then only to be confirmed a couple days later, we go, well, I know this guy was our emergency quarterback and didn't even play in that football game. We think our backup quarterback was so bad we're going to our third-string quarterback, but there is a pedigree that comes along with Rattler where you know he sits in the pocket. Could he make mistakes? Absolutely, but the talent is there to deliver. And I loved what he said at his opening press conference. They're talking about like some of the players on the team. Chris Olave, that guy's a dog out there. I got to get him the football, which resonates because why? Nobody got Olave the football on that primetime game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Olave's got to love that. And rookie quarterbacks that are going to be tied into a very good wide receiver expect a lot of footballs to go that way because Olave's the primary target. How many times do you see a guy making his first career start make that progression to the second, third, and fourth wide out? Olave should get a ton of targets against the Bucs.
He said he only looks to Chris Olave when he is on the field. After 3 straight games with at least 80 receiving yards, Olave finished with less than 15 on Monday night in Kansas City. Spencer Rattler and the Saints, 3.5-point home dog against the Bucs. That line was 2.5 earlier in the week with some uncertainty around Derek Carr's status. Russell Wilson back at practice. Right now, Pittsburgh, 3-point road favorite in Las Vegas against the Raiders. We'll get some of Donnie's thoughts on that and some injury news to some critical wide receivers. Michael Pittman Jr. to miss multiple weeks with a back injury. Dr. Donnie all over it. Nico Collins placed on the IR because of a hamstring injury for Houston. Week 6 about to begin in the NFL when Hour 2 starts next.